Wow, I think it was interesting getting to know about fair trade, which is one of the hottest issues in contemporary society these days.
I think the audiences also will be interested in learning more about the fair trade. Thank you for the presentation. Now it's time to listen to comments from two different schools. First, I'd like to invite emails from Incheon High School.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. and Ms. Moderator. And also, I want to start the commentating by giving the appreciation to our two speakers writing the thesis, and I could really see the great efforts they put through this by some impressive points. And first, I saw their first thesis, and I saw their good work on finding the previous researches, and they not only found the previous research, they also summarized it and made it on the charts, so that all the readers, including me and this commentator here, could actually understand well about the fair trade and also the fair trade labeling systems. Also in the section of the resolution and the hypothesis and the result and discussion, they have also listed the problems and the hypothesis, therefore clarifying the current errors in the fair trade systems. So in order for readers to know about the problems. But also, everything is not perfect. There was also some flaws in there. Well, first of all, I want to ask why the background information of the fair trade labeling system and the fair trade system was in the result and discussion part. Clearly, in the introduction part, there was a part saying that there was about the background information. And clearly, this information could go into the introduction problem, but actually it was in the result and discussion problem. This commentator actually will want to hear about the reason why the background information was in the result and discussion. And secondly, on the ambiguous standards, yes, on the speaking, I heard that it was really ambiguous. There was no exact figures about how it was ambiguous and which part of it and how big is the ambiguity. But in the resolution part, there were also no figures that how this ambiguity will be fixed and the numbers on the factors were actually really ambiguous for me to understand how the ambiguity can be changed. And also about the miss of the survey sheet was kind of disturbing to me. Because at the section of consumer and cognition part, there was 52% of middle school students knowing and have an experience of buying the fair trade products. However, with the other criteria mentioned below, which was the 71% of the student buying the fair trade products for the ethical purpose, and 67% of uncritical thinkers of fair trade, and their numbers was untold, it wasn't presented without any graphs or the statistics, there was no methods to understand that the survey questions were appropriate to get this kind of results. And also because of omitting the sheet, knowing about other question forms and percentage of students were impossible, which could actually lead into uninformed answers or even the manipulations. So to conclusion of the speaking, the great parts was also really impressive. But however, the bad part were too dark to cover this up. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we are going to hear other comments from Incheon International High School. Jang Yong-moo, could you tell us your opinion on this issue?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First, I really appreciate that the speakers wrote such a brilliant paper and gave a great speech to help us to comprehend the limitations of free trade. And also, they helped us to consider how to make fair trade more fair. And I think this is an excellent work, and I'm really honored for the opportunity to comment on this. So first, I want to briefly summarize the presentation. So I think this paper This paper analyzed the limitations of fair trade and discovered some solutions. It claims that expansion of trade between nations has led to an issue, the immorality of economic activities. The speakers divide this paper into three different categories. investigate the origins and purpose of free trade, declare the limitations of free trade, and propose suggestions to make free trade become more moral. The speakers mentioned a sample in which they served 350 students of Michu홀외고 Foreign Language High School to investigate the consumer combination products, and the result showed that consumers are likely to purchase fair trade products. So in this paper, the speakers claimed that fair trade was actually unfair due to the fact that consumers have to pay extra money, and fair trade labeling organizations won't pay producers and workers a high price wage. So based on the limitations of fair trade, the speakers addressed some solutions, such as fair trade labeling organizations should put content about their fund management or account books in the Fair Trade Organization annual report, and the organization needs to unify its principles and establish more specific principles to protect the producers' rights. The speakers did a really great job. However, I would like to provide some criticisms in this paper. First, I want to mention that the definitions of fair trade and moral economy should be intentionally introduced in the introduction, so audience can easily understand these definitions, and they don't have to read through the whole paper to look for these definitions with an answer to mine until page 8. And also, I think in this paper, the speakers also surveyed 350 students of Michu홀외고 Foreign Language High School to investigate the consumer combination of free trade products, and their results showed that 67% of the students purchase fair trade products with real knowledge about fair trade. However, students used an unrepresentative sample as a conclusion and claimed that the results they found prove that consumers are likely to purchase fair trade products, which I think these results are highly unpersuasive and biased, because Michu홀외고 Foreign Language High School students cannot represent all the consumers around the world. So the results of the survey cannot be generalized to the general population. So even though the topic of this paper is the limitations and resolution of fair trade as a realization of the moral economy, I think it would be better if the speakers add a little bit of information about the positive side of the fair trade. Even if fair trade has a lot of limitations, it is still accepted by most of the companies, so it has to be effective in some ways. And also, the speakers need more specific statistical data to support their point of views and back up how fair trade labeling organizations use fair trade as a tool to...
Anyone? First of all, I'd like to thank Jong-woo and Yeon for your wonderful talk. I really enjoyed listening to that. The question I have for you is, don't you think that corporations might step back from pursuing fair trade at all if the labeling grade system gets employed? Yes, I'd like to hear your opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good question. First, I want to confirm the purpose of our research once again. We want to prevent fair trade from being used as a marketing strategy, so this problem should be addressed afterwards, not related to our current worksheet. So, however, if the problems of fair trade were relieved, the consumers' demands would increase, and so the company would be willing to participate in fair trade rather than avoiding to participate in fair trade.
First of all, thank you for your great speech. During your speech, you suggested fair trade supervisor, right? But don't you think that fair trade supervisor will be also corrupted like other companies, as you said, like Starbucks? How can you solve this problem?
The purpose of our study is to solve current problems of fair trade system so I think the problem should be addressed later. But if you want me to answer, I think I can say that the board of supervisors should be made up of non-profits and international organizations, not to be partial. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you. Thank you too for presenting an interesting argument. What I want to ask you is that what kind of organization would be ideal as a supervisor of real fair trade? Should it be governmental organization or NGOs, etc.?
We said non-profit organizations and international organizations or civic union will be appropriate.
Are there any more questions? I'd like to encourage students from Incheon High School or Incheon International High School to ask a question. If not, yes, gentleman over there.
First of all, I truly appreciate for today's presentation. Basically, I'd like to ask that when it comes to the fair trade, what we should focus is actually the exploitation in terms of children, because the producers that you mentioned, like they gain only when it comes to the Starbucks, they only gain 3% of the gains from the entire profits, but like basically they are usually children who are weak, like they're not enough to fight against the like unfair trade circumstances. So I'd like to ask you, what are the ways to solve these kind of like children exploitations in terms of labor? Thank you.
In our research paper, we actually did not treat that you have said, but yes, it's true. The fair trade was devised to relieve the exploitation of producers usually in southern hemisphere. So. I'm sorry to say that we could not cover the issues that you say, so we cannot offer an appropriate answer for your questions. Sorry.
Any more questions? Lady at the front.
Thank you for your speech. I'm a student from Incheon National High School. You mentioned that one of your solutions was to implement a supervisor in between the current free trade system. I have a question of whether this will just increase the cost of the already implemented free trade system. I have a question in whether this will just increase the expense and not really solve the current problems that are existing in the free trade system.
Yes, the setting up the independent institution is also costly, but the purpose of fair trade was devised is to relieve the situation relieve the pain of producers in the enhanced producers, right? So if the if the cost increase a little more, it's also worth to get the producers out of the pain. Sorry.
Is there anyone who wants to ask the last question? Maybe.
Is it suitable to include people who only bought goods that you guys mentioned? Shouldn't there be good fair trade products that are being made and supplied that you guys didn't mention? Shouldn't there be good fair trade products that are being made and supplied that you guys didn't mention?
Can you say that again? I can't hear.
Is it suitable to include people who only bought goods that you guys mentioned? Shouldn't there be good fair trade products that are being made and supplied that you guys didn't mention?
Does audience mean that there is good example of fair trade rather than the problem that he mentioned?
Yes.
Speakers, did you get it?
Did you ask the good examples of fair trade?
Yes.
Okay. Wait. Fair trade chocolates, which is produced by 아름다운 가게, is, I think, that have good intentions, which is suitable to our studies. One more question. Anyone? The gentleman at the front.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. In your moral standards, what percent do you think is suitable for the producers to receive from their profits? Do you want me to repeat it? What percent of the profits do you think is suitable for the producers? Like in the case of Starbucks, what percent of the profit do you think the farmers should get to achieve fair trade agreement?
And understand the question appropriately. Can you say that more?
I'll talk slowly. What percent of the profits do you think is suitable for the producers to earn to achieve the moral standards for free trade agreement?
Maybe
will be appropriate. Thank you.
Can you tell me the reason why?
Because we are not experts, so we can say exactly why it is appropriate, but we think at least the two meet their original purposes. At least less than 50% of the extra income should be went to the poor producers. So we say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Time for everyone.